Make sure I get the camera facing the right way, it always helps. Good morning, it's Lisa Jane, and I really hope that you've had a beautiful weekend. It's the 1st of February already. I want to talk about resentment today because this is a feeling, whether or not you've been through a breakup or a relationship, it will happen. Sorry about that. One of the things that I really want to keep talking about is hello. When we have a feeling, what I'd really strongly suggest is rather than not liking it and resisting it and trying not to be that and trying to get over it, just allow it to be there. Because ultimately our power and our truth comes when we can merge with those feelings, when we integrate them into who we are right now. And sometimes it doesn't feel comfortable, but I tell you what, the long-term result is that it's heaps more comfortable integrating it than what it is resisting it for the rest of your life. And one of those feelings that I learned to work with quite a few years ago was resentment. One of the things that I see resentment as is a red flag. So for me, even though when I feel resentment, I can project it out to other people. I can blame them for feeling resentful. And it's their fault that I'm resentful. They've done something for me. And hey, if you're going through a breakup, that's a pretty typical feeling. It's like we feel that the feeling that we're feeling is because of someone else's behavior or because of an experience that we're experiencing. And it's true that may have activated the feeling in us, but the feeling is ours. The feeling has nothing to do with anybody else. It's inside our body. So when I feel resentful, I always see it as a red flag to myself. I look at the resentment and I go, there's something that I'm not doing for myself that I need to do, or there's something that I need to address. So for me, resentment is a red flag to actually look inside and see what's going on inside myself. I'd really, really, really strongly suggest that you see resentment as something that separates you from your truth. If you want to stay in resentment, that's absolutely fine. Maybe that's what you need to do right now. I don't know what your journey is right now. And sometimes we do need to sit in it for a bit. But please hold the awareness that the resentment is stopping you from being the fullest you, the most powerful you that you can possibly be. It's like a veil over the connection to who you really are. Which is why when you feel it, it's this red flag. It's like, hey, have a look at this. Have a look at this. There's somewhere that you're walking away from your truth. And so with resentment around breakup, that's a bit of a tricky thing because you've got this event that's happened to you, you're feeling powerless, it may or may not have been your fault, or you may perceive it as not your fault, and you're feeling blame and resentment around it. How can you move that? So one of the things that I did was, first of all, that I've mentioned this before, and I probably will mention it again, the resentment is your opportunity to actually find more of yourself. The resentment is calling you to come back inside and have a look at what's going on inside yourself that you need to heal right now. So if rather than looking at the resentment as something I want to get rid of and something that's separate from myself, if I consider it a very wise part of me that's actually calling me in, it's calling me back into my truth. So if that helps me be open to whatever gift that the resentment holds for me. One of the other things that really, really can't help but shift resentment, and especially in relationships, is when we actually have a look at the event. Now, in any event, whatever happens, if we are truly honest with ourselves and we look at the event and we look at the situation, we can actually look back through the event and we can see where we've taken an action or where we've done something that has created the event that's caused the devastation in our lives. When we take full 100% responsibility for what's happened to us, resentment automatically shifts. Naturally, that happens. We don't have to combat the resentment head on. For example, in my last relationship, I trusted where perhaps I shouldn't have trusted. And even though I may have brought things up to communicate, I let things go. But for me, it was like, why didn't I just take it that extra step forward? If I still felt something, why didn't I keep saying, this is still not right for me? This still doesn't feel good. There's something still going on here. But I let it go. Even though I'd raise things and I'd talk about things, I sort of thought, well, maybe it's me, and I'd let things go. But my intuition was actually telling me there's something that's not right. I'm looking at all the red flags and I'm still not going, actually, there's something really not right. I'm just looking at all the red flags and going, no, but I trust that person. So can you see the conflict there? And when I go back and I actually admit that to myself, there were red flags, and I really didn't investigate them thoroughly. I didn't do my research into every single one of those red flags. I didn't combat them because I was afraid that my partner would think that I didn't trust him. I was afraid that my partner would see me as not supportive. But actually, I wasn't supporting myself. So why wouldn't I feel resentful? And that brings me to another point. Often when we really investigate resentment, it's actually that we're resentful towards ourselves. Almost every single time it comes back to that. Resentment towards ourselves because we didn't stand by us, because we didn't stand in the power of our truth, because we didn't listen to what our inner guidance was telling us. We walked away from ourselves. And that's where the resentment actually is. For me, anyway. Every single time I've traced it back to that point. So loving the self, understanding is part of the journey, and what a beautiful opportunity resentment gives us. Because if we don't investigate it and see it as that opportunity and integrate it, it keeps us separate from the truth of who we are. And that's what these videos are all about, because it's time, ladies. It's time to stand back in your power. It's time to discover the full, amazing magnificence that you truly are, because you absolutely are. And whatever you're going through right now is the opportunity you have to turn around and look and find that, because it's there. It absolutely is. I know it. So I'm sending you love for a beautiful day, and I'm wishing you peace, and I'm wishing you power on the inside.